Okay. Hello. We are going to talk about two different texts. We're going to have a discussion group. It's going to be led by me, Ursula Eva Flores. I am joined by Jimena Arenas and Pamela Sanchez. Our other group mate, Brenda Cabrera, couldn't make it, but she would love to be here, but couldn't make it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The text that we're going to be talking about or mentioning are first, the strategic management of ELT in public educational systems, trying to reduce failure and increase success. And the second text is young EFL students' engagements with English outside the classroom. Okay, let's see. So our first question is, how does students' motivation affect others and the results of ELT in public schools? Let's see. Pamela, could you help me answer that question?
Yes, I think that the role of motivation uh, has a very huge impact not only in the person, which is like the individual person, but the perception that you give to others. Because I remember in one of the readings it was mentioned that sometimes students are um they are influenced by others' perceptions, and I think it is the same with motivation. When for example, when for children, when they see that others are not very motivated, or they are like they don't want to work, they are influenced by that, and it's like if they adopt that motivation too. So I think that it's how motivation affects others. And for sure, it will affect the result of ELT in public schools, because uh, since they don't have like this, like put they don't work in the way that maybe it could be better. Um, you as a teacher, you cannot implement more things that receive the goals, that produce the goals that you previously have um um that you have previously made, maybe.
Yes, of course. Hime, what do you believe? How does students' motivation affect others in the results of ELT in public schools?
As Pame mentioned, and we see this especially with young learners, that if someone is, not paying attention or just joking around, maybe their friends is gonna follow him, her, and that is difficult because we have this uncredibility, or yeah, this lack of credibility in language classes in general, and especially in public schools where is a subject where they don't pay that much attention, or it's a new subject and they are just arranging the way that they are teaching. And yeah, basically is is what I think, like this kind of, if someone see someone else that is not paying attention, the group is gonna follow that classmate.
Yes, I agree with both of you. Both make really good points. Something that I would like to add is that, we did see kind of like what kind of biases could exist, probably for just like the English, like as a subject for children in public schools, like, oh, why am I going to have to learn this? Why would I even need to learn this? Why am I going to use it when? I think those types of like attitudes could come into play in in their attitudes, right? These types of questionings of like, why do I even have to see this with any subjects, but for English in particular? And as we've seen, you know, there has been some type of failure with how it is being taught to our students, you know, quite unsuccessfully, especially in public schools. It's a different story probably with, or most likely with, you know, private schools and people that are of a higher, you know, socioeconomic background. But with, you know, public schools, I feel like learners might have like this type of, you know, attitude that inhibits them or like kind of holds them back. And it's obviously not ideal. And we have to try to like work with them and see like, you know, you could use this, it could help you down the line. And we also have to work to better our own kind of like how we present the language to them, how we give our classes, how we make it meaningful to them. As I feel like we might, you know, touch on that subject more along during this discussion. But you know, it could be something that we could work on as teachers to try to help them, you know, feel a little bit more motivated, you know, see what kind of benefits it could bring them, and try to make it as enjoyable for them as possible as well. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, so with this lack of credibility in public schools about English, would you consider it as a negative factor on how students perceive the language? Let's see, Pamela, what do you think about this?
Yes, I totally think that this is a negative factor because okay, let me think a little bit more about it because I have it in my head. Well, I think it has to be a little bit with teachers too, because I remember that in one of the readings I was mentioning that sometimes when and we have mentioned it too before in the workshops that we have had in during the semester, that sometimes it is something that happens to many teachers, that when they have students that they don't care about their classes, they just, it's like, I'm just going to give my class, and if you want to pay attention, even more with adult or teenager students, if you want to pay attention, it's okay. I am here to guide you, but I cannot do something else if you're not like valuing my what I am doing. And I think in some way the teachers are like I forgot the word, but like tired about it. And maybe I think that students start to perceive that, and it's like a problem that goes to from students and then to teachers, and students and to teachers, because students start to perceive this maybe like stress maybe of the teacher, and they start to perceive like a bad environment or something like that. You know what I mean? I think it's like I don't know if I explain it in the correct way, but it's in my head.
No, of course, yeah. There, you know, we could be projecting our own kind of like feelings about, you know, how the class is working out onto students. They might feel that. I definitely identify or, you know, kind of, you know, relate to that. Jimena, sorry. What would you think about this? With a lack of credibility in public schools about English, would you consider it as a negative factor on how students perceive the language?
Yeah, I think like it's a total negative factor, because this perception even comes from home, you know. If parents are telling to the kids like, you don't need English, this is Mexico, that is not a real teacher. That is not an American teaching you English. The school is not giving everything to you, and all these kind of things that they are like telling to children or to students. They are forming this idea that maybe that the level is not good, maybe that the teacher or the school itself is not good or is not what they deserve. And obviously with this idea that the class is not working, they are perceiving this bad face towards the language. So yes, I think that this impacts in the perception of the language. And I think like also the reading mentioned that like if parents are not working with their children, is not going to work towards learning or acquire the language itself.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's see. With this, I kind of do feel like students, might kind of bring some type of baggage, some like preconceived notions of the language or like the school system in general, which will probably affect, their perception of the language. We've seen, in class and like in material, how students can, know that the system is not working in general, right? We could say, public education system is not working. They know how to cheat the system because we have a lot of problems. And that's, probably a topic for another class. But in regards to English, what Hime mentioned, of these like, kind of like stereotypes about native, teachers and, this teacher doesn't really even know English. So they can have like all of these preconceived notions that is going to affect their perception of the language. I definitely do feel like it's going to affect the way that they are learning. If they're not even putting an effort because they have, I'm not going to use this. This isn't going to work for me. And I feel like it's already going to impact them more than it already does because public education, English in public education, public schools isn't great. It isn't, made, by specialists, I believe. It's not done in a way that can benefit them, very much. And, it's not great all around. So if they're already, bringing in like negative attitudes towards this, like we mentioned before, it's going to affect them, impact them quite a bit. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Okay, so we have, how can we try to decrease failure in our own classrooms? Okay, and this would be kind of like in regards, we've already seen that the reading was kind of like about failure in like the public education system, but how can we try to implement things to decrease the failure in our own classrooms? Pamela, what do you think?
Maybe one way in which I could decrease failure in my classroom could be to maybe to help them or to guide them to first to engage with the language, to try to use it out of the classroom, which is, I think it's and it goes a little bit with the second reading, but maybe yes, to try to implement technology, but in a way that they can relate it with their own what they like, maybe.
Yes, I think that could be a good, method to try to work out, implement some type of technology, something that they might like into the classroom. What about you, Jimena?
I think like we as professors, we need to know our students as much as possible. For example, in all ages, like for example, with kids, what do they like, what are their strengths and weaknesses. And maybe it will probably be easier with adults, if they are struggling with some kind of aspects, I don't know, maybe writing or any kind of strength. We can show them or teach them some kind of tools in order to help them. But in order to be able to do this, we need to know what is going on with them. Obviously, as much as possible. Maybe it's not possible all the time because maybe you have a lot of groups and a lot of students. But knowing what's going on with your students, I think it's like the beginning to help them. So yes, implementing tools and strategies that they need, especially for each one of them. Like if you are noticing like this student is struggling with, I don't know, writing. Okay, try to implement some strategies to the student in order to get better in that area. I think that might help.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, what I could say about decreasing failure in our own classrooms would be kind of like a mix of like what you guys have said, like maybe noticing like what they like, what they need, trying to implement probably technology into the classroom. I would definitely say that what we've learned in this class and in the BA in general has, given us tools to be able to, combat failure, try to be the best teachers that we can, try to know the material, try to implement probably our own authentic material. In the second text that we're going to talk about in a moment, we did see that implementing things that are, more close to the students, like to what they are interested in, can have a very positive impact in their own learning. So that is, I feel like, some strategies that we could try to strive for to make this whole process for them, learning process, a little bit easier, and we could decrease the possibility of failure. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So now, going into our next text, we have a few questions. The first one, taking into account that many students in public schools do not have access to technology nor outside of the classroom. What would be your strategy to engage with the language outside of the class? Let's see, Pamela, what would you do?
Okay, I remember some in the reading it was mentioned that some students, well, the teachers ask to parents what and which spaces they used the language, and almost everyone was say that it was using technology, for example in TikTok or in Twitter. No, I think it was in Twitter. In music, I think it was, and movies. And well, maybe for some students who don't have access to those tools, maybe one strategy could be to know to ask them what are their interests and try to implement that, maybe with worksheets, but based on what they could look for, maybe.
Yes, I definitely agree. Let's see, Jimena, what would you do?
As Pame mentioned, we need to know what the likes are of the students, and also, maybe if you can provide some kind of material to your students that that they don't have access to technology, or the technology is a little bit difficult to access. Yes, I mean, providing some copies or whatever might be helpful for them. And also maybe if they have access to a public library, maybe you can check first while would you think it's helpful for the age and everything. And maybe with the titles, and you can say like, okay, look, this is the book that I have found in the public library. You can go and have them for free and for a few days. And basically that like, or recommending to the parent like, okay, maybe in this channel or maybe in this radio station, they play music that they might like. And yeah, try to um, break the barrier as much as possible between the lack of exposure to the language.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree, especially with like what you last mentioned, like the lack of exposure outside of classroom. I feel like maybe, as the text mentioned, we sometimes believe that the lack of exposure that students are receiving is a lot greater than it actually could be. We might limit ourselves to the possibilities of, what they could be looking at, what they could be kind of like seeing throughout, their day-to-day lives. Something that, we could rely on is Old Reliable, which is having them watch probably their favorite movies, their favorite TV shows. Try to get them to watch that in English. You're already going to be watching it. And as we, saw with the text, parents noticed that they were understanding what was going on. They could get the gist, maybe from like instruction guides. There are 1 to 2 words, that they recognize, so they automatically understand what's happening. If whether it be with video games or tutorials, I believe was also mentioned, music. I've had lots of, people that I've come across that have said, oh, this is the way that I've learned language. And most of the time, it does involve, formal instruction, but it also comes with how they're getting the language through something that they enjoy. I don't want to take up too much more time, but I also saw that fandom was something that people have learned language through, getting, the language through medium. When you're really into things like, for example, a movie, and you join a community with other people who like it, like the things that you like, you start to talk about it. But usually the language that is used, even for things that are in foreign languages, like for example could be in Spanish and Turkish, a lot of times the communities are also speaking in English, because we know we have this kind of like basis for English being the language that we use to communicate with each other. And you're creating community, and you could promote that to your students, that you can use English not just for boring things that you might think just here in classroom, but for things outside that could bring you a lot of joy. So yes, I think that could be a strategy that we could use. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, so how can we implement outside materials successfully in our own classrooms? Pamela, what do you think?
Maybe I think for this kind of materials, the first thing that I could do as a teacher is to see what is appropriate for my students, and depending on their age, because I think it's I think it's a kind of a problem right now, because it's something that I have seen. Children are very in touch with technology and social networks, and they are watching things that they shouldn't be watching. And for this reason, I think that I would like to try to implement firstly inside of my classroom, like more things according to their age, hoping that at some point they can like to get engaged with that kind of material and that kind of content, and based on that start to work with that they develop like kind of like a like for that material, for that kind of content, and they start to practice more with that kind of content.
Yes, of course, I agree. Trying to, focus maybe on like their age and, what they could like. What about you, Hime? What do you think?
I think like, for example, when you have a book for your students and maybe they're not getting like some kind of topic, you can implement the right material to help them. Obviously, according to their age and maybe their likes also. But yes, when you are able to implement this material, it's very, very helpful because maybe you are targeting the problem or the issue like in the exact point, and you're not be like, wasting time, or yes, mainly wasting time in order to explain them why they don't understand. And if you are adding to this their likes, it will be very engaging to them, and maybe they can understand like successfully what you wanted to teach. And I think when you have this opportunity, it's awesome for you and for your students.
Yes. Okay. So, well, what I believe about implementing like outside materials successfully in our own classroom, I definitely think I can draw from like what you both mentioned, about probably like their age and what their likes are, see, perhaps there's a big, percentage of the classroom that are gamers, or they might like, this kind of like, social media content, like TikTok videos and things like that. And I feel like we could, try to sell them on, this could help you possibly, with your gaming skills, with your gaming abilities, or maybe for you to yourself become a content creator. Try to use that type of language. I know it was also mentioned like using things that were culturally also, relatable to them. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for us to I don't know, include things like from the UK that is, something that's a little bit farther away and isn't really that culturally relevant to us. But if we try to present it in like, you could use it this way, we could use these language skills in a way that could benefit you, that you could use it, long run. It could be definitely good. So I definitely think like video games, probably, social media, movies, music, things like that that were also mentioned in the readings could be very helpful as well. Okay, let's go to the next reading. Sorry, to the next question. So we have, when having young learners, why should we need to work hand by hand with parents? Let's see, Pamela.
Well, I think this is this is important, to work with, to let them know that you are listening their well, their talks, maybe, because sometimes I have seen that like 2 points. I see it from 2 points of view. And sometimes I have seen it like they go in a very protective way to their children, that it's okay, it's their children, right? But they're like very protective, and it's like in some ways like almost aggressive, And in other ways, it's like they want to be very in contact with you, helping you. And I think a balance between this is to let them know that you're listening to their to what they have to tell you, because it's also useful for you as a teacher to know to know children maybe better, or at least to know that what is what are their interests, or sometimes things that they do at home but they don't do at school, or they do at school but they don't do at home, that could be related in this in their learning.
Yes. Jime, what do you think?
I think like this is necessary. This is need to be done because even though, especially with young children, they kind of learn like in a easiest way. We need parents to to rehearse this knowledge. For example, in the reading, they mention like when parents are noticing like they are like catching up words in a movie or in a song, when they say like, oh mom, this word means this, oh I know that phrase that means this. And when parents are telling you this feedback, you can also notice your what it's going on more or less in their heads for learning. And also it helps you as professor to know what to implement, what to change maybe, or what to reinforce in your class. And yeah, definitely, I mean, I have worked with children, and you need parents to accomplish your your maybe your work or their goals also, because if they're not like telling them like you are taking English, you need to get better, or we need to study and things like that, maybe it will be enough having them in class. Because maybe you have like, I don't know, maybe 3 hours per week, or maybe less or more, but it's not enough. It's also a work that needs to be done in home. And with young children, you need you need their parents to accomplish this.
Yes, of course. Also, I think that one of the benefits of being in constant communication with children's parents, not only when they're, young, but high schoolers as well, middle schoolers, is that, we could get a sense of like, what their interests are, which I feel like is kind of like the basis for this text. We could see, what they're doing outside of the classroom, how things could benefit them. Talking to parents and telling them, a lot of them, would prefer to know, what are the strategies, methods that they could also use for them to have a better understanding of the language, to learn it better, to have better skills. So I think, we could work with them quite well to better just our students, right? Their learning process and everything. So working with them, getting an idea of like what is going on at home, what the children like, and then for us to also, give them feedback. Oh, they're doing really good on this. Maybe they could work on this. These are some methods. This is something that they can do. And we could also help them, for example, tell them, oh, you don't have that much time to be, making sure that they're doing this. These are like ineffective, things that won't really take time out of, your day or whatever you're doing, your schedule. You could have them working, with the language by putting on the TV, while you're doing dishes, or, while you guys are traveling, you could have them, pop in a song, listen to something. So I think there are different things that they could do to benefit them. And it could, benefit everyone, the teacher-parent relationships, teacher-child, and, so forth. So I think that would be, quite helpful. And that would be it for me. And for our discussion over these two texts. And in conclusion, I think it would be great to try to work our, as teachers, as the professionals, to try to create obviously a very nice environment for learners, very positive and, accepting, so that they can try to be as comfortable as possible with the language. And, even if the conditions aren't the best, we could definitely try to work to get, everything on the right track for them, try to be the best with our material, try to be the best teachers possible, and not just, people who know the language but don't have any, no knowledge of pedagogy or how docency works. So that learners can learn the best way possible. I don't know if you guys would like to add anything else.
No, not me.
Okay, well then that would be it for us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in class soon.
Thank you.